Blackpool. To millions of Britons, it is a town of glittering lights, seaside piers, candy floss, and weekend getaways. But beneath the faded glamour of this Lancashire resort town lies a darker, more complex reality, a world of poverty, overlooked youth, and systemic failures. On Saturday, November 1st, 2003, that underbelly claimed one of its own. Her name was Charlene Downes. She was just 14 years old. 14, yet navigating a world far older and far more dangerous than she should ever have had to face. On that crisp autumn evening, Charlene kissed her mother goodbye, walked out into the Blackpool town centre, and vanished entirely off the face of the earth. More than 2 decades later, her body has never been found. No one has ever been convicted of her murder. And the investigation into what happened to Charlene remains one of the most botched, rumour-plagued, and heartbreaking cases in British criminal history. To understand how a 14-year-old girl could vanish into thin air, investigators had to trace her final hours step by step through the bustling Saturday night crowds. At 3:25 p.m., security cameras captured Charlene walking through town alongside her younger sister, Rebecca. They were teenagers killing time hanging around amusement arcades and the vibrant shopping corridors. As evening settled in, Charlene parted ways with her family, utilizing public phone boxes on Leopold Grove to coordinate with friends. Witnesses reported seeing her moving between local fast food establishments and alleyways near the town's promenade. By 9:30 p.m., she was spotted at the Carousel Bar on the North Pier before heading back toward the maze of takeaway shops clustering around Abingdon Street and Court Street. The last confirmed sighting of Charlene alive placed her near the junction of Talbot Road and Abingdon Street at approximately 11 p.m. After that, absolute silence. When Charlene failed to return home over the next 2 days, her mother, Karen, grew frantic and contacted emergency services. But in the crucial opening days of November 2003, law enforcement made a catastrophic miscalculation. Police initially categorized Charlene as a routine teenage runaway, a dangerous bureaucratic label that tragically stalled the urgency of the investigation, allowing vital evidence witnesses to slip away into the Blackpool night. As the months turned into years, the investigation mutated into something grotesque. What should have been a meticulous hunt for a missing child became overshadowed by sensationalized local gossip, urban legends, and media hysteria. The case earned a deeply damaging moniker in local law: the kebab girl rumour. By 2006, Lancashire police officially reclassified the disappearance as a murder inquiry, and a narrative emerged that shocked the nation. Police alleged that Charlene had been lured into a local takeaway shop owned by Ayad al-Batiki, where she was allegedly murdered, and that her remains were subsequently disposed of, a horrific, salacious allegation that she had been processed into meat products sold to unsuspecting customers. It was a narrative fueled by secret, covertly recorded listening devices planted by police inside the suspects' homes and businesses. In May 2007, al-Batiki and his business partner, Mohammed Raveshi, stood trial at Preston Crown Court. But the trial collapsed in chaos. The jury failed to reach a verdict. When a retrial was scheduled for 2008, it fell apart entirely. The Crown Prosecution Service was forced to offer no evidence because critical audio recordings, supposedly capturing the men joking about the crime, were found to be virtually inaudible, heavily compromised, and legally unreliable. The men were acquitted and released, later receiving compensation for false imprisonment. The sensational kebabs rumour was exposed for what it was: a grotesque myth that had completely hijacked and derailed a genuine murder investigation. Behind the lurid headlines and collapsed trials lay an even more uncomfortable truth, one that police and social services spent years trying to reckon with. Charlene Downes was not just a missing person. She was a victim of a much darker systemic failure. Investigators eventually uncovered evidence revealing that for a prolonged period before her disappearance, Charlene and a network of vulnerable teenage girls in Blackpool had been targeted by predatory men. They were subjected to child sexual exploitation, groomed with food, cigarettes, and false affection, and passed around a localized network of older men connected to the town's fast food circuit. Class, vulnerability, and systemic neglect played massive roles. Because Charlene's family was known to social services, and because she fell into a marginalized demographic, the warning signs had been ignored. To many institutional authorities at the time, girls like Charlene were cruelly dismissed or stigmatized, rather than protected. Over the years, the net has occasionally tightened and shifted. New arrests have been made. High-profile investigative podcasts have forced the public to look past the myths, and a £100,000 reward remains permanently on the table for anyone brave enough to break the silence. Yet, more than 20 years later, the core tragedy remains absolute. 14-year-old Charlene Downes walked out into a Blackpool night and never came home. Her family is left without a grave to visit, and her true story, stripped of the urban legends that sought to swallow it, remains a permanent, unhealed wound in the heart of British criminal history.